Alright guys, finally doing another army showcase today. So this is a smaller army, but this is my 15mm Transylvanian army. All these figures are from the Fire and Sword range by Wargamer Poland. This army is made out of the Transylvanian Skirmish Army box set, plus two additional packs. I got three additional packs actually. I got some Cecora mounted handgunners, Cecora infantry, and I have another additional Hajduk unit with from a pack of additional Hajduks that had both the mounted and the dismounted, and the same with the mounted Cecora handgunners, included the mounted and the unmounted. And then from the skirmish box set, it's a unit of just light cavalry, unit of lancers, the command unit, for my project will be Prince Gabor Bethlen, and then the big, larger Hajduk unit with mounted and dismounted options. I actually don't know a lot about the specifics of the Transylvanian armies in the 16th and 17th century. There's a book published by Helion, by a scholar, Romanian scholar, whose academic stuff I've read and cited, but I haven't read that book yet. I was checking to see if he had done any kind of work. Florin is his first name, and I forget, his last name escapes me at the moment, even though I was just looking at his stuff today. But anyway, this is going to be represent the Transylvanian force that was with the Ottoman army at the Battle of Cecora in 1620. It's not clear to me if they actually participated in the battle or they just remained in camp. The Hungarian sources I was able to look at mostly focused on the diplomacy of them trying to get the Transylvanians to fall in with the Ottoman diplomacy, with the Transylvanians trying to get them to fall in with them. But I have to look into that more. But I'll go ahead and zoom in and we can look at the individual units. So, got the infantry unit here. Now, I'm still planning on using Baroque for this game, for this scenario. And Baroque still treats pike and shot units as separate, I think, in the army list. I have to recheck, but I don't really like that in pike and shot rule sets. That's really bothers me. So I'm gonna have to find a way to house rule it, but this is obviously it's got the pikemen and the shot together. So I should probably arrange them more like this, but so I got the shooters are on the wings. But then back here I have the mounted handgunners, and I'm sure they're, for the fire and sword rules, they're supposed to be dragoons with a dismounted option, but I think what I'm going to do for my scenario, just to maximize the amount of figures I have, I'm just going to use these guys as small, skirmisher units or commanded shot, that kind of thing. Over here, got the mounted light infantry. These guys are armed with swords, bows, and some of them have carbines or arquebuses, I guess. They're going to be, I think I'm going to treat them as light cavalry when I have to write up the army lists. Here I have the lancers. And I should also say, for the historical bit, I don't know exactly what kind of Transylvanian troops were assembled at Cecora, so I'm going to have to look into that. But for now, this is just kind of a way to fill in that part of the battle until I can do more research. But got lancers here. These guys look pretty sharp. They are kind of similar to Polish pancerni, but they have kind of more of a mix of, like, you got some guys with Western style cuirass, And then you've got more guys with more Eastern style chainmail, so that's pretty cool. I think these figures are sculpted to be for the period of the Rákóczi revolt, in that he was active in the Rákóczi József was active in the 1680s, I think, because he allied with Louis XIV, I believe, or tried to, anyway. But yeah, I'm using these as for obviously earlier in the century, but I think they look pretty good. According to one of this Hungarian book I have, it shows Transylvanians wearing a lot of reds. At least that's how the artist depicted it. And George Shongi, I think my Hungarian is getting worse. I haven't practiced properly in a while. Anyway, yeah, he mostly depicts Transylvanians wearing red in this period, so I went with a lot of reds in this army, as you can see. Here is the command unit, who will, for my purposes, be Prince Bethlen. I did blue and yellow and red, and then I gave them a nice big Transylvanian banner. The fire and sword banners are pretty nice, I have to say. They are a sticker, which some people don't like. I don't mind it, and I'll have to clean this up a little bit, but I mostly just wanted to get the army all finished. Over here are the Hajduks, so I got 2 units. I painted these guys blue. Let me see if that'll work. There we go. A little grainier, but anyway, these guys are, I did blue and red on these guys, dark blue and red, and you can probably tell, yeah, these are, I don't know, they're not photographing that well, and they look a little, I don't know, not really liking them how they turned out, but anyway. And then these I did black and blue based off of that Hungarian author's book. He had depicted some of them wearing clothes like this, black jackets and blue trousers, so that's what I did. I think, though, even though this is a little bit of a historical guess on my part, I think in terms of gameplay, it'll be interesting because I think for the Ottoman team or the Ottoman player, whatever the case may be, you know, you've got basically 3 sub-armies that kind of play a little bit different. Each of them kind of plays a little bit differently. I think for the Transylvanians, I'm not going to add that much more. I may want to add a couple more units. We'll see. Maybe like 1 more Lancer unit, but I think it would be interesting, at least from a gameplay perspective, instead of a strict historical simulation, that, you know, this army is a lot more dragoons and commanded, you know, kind of light infantry. So, you know, you're going to have to, the person would have to play it a little bit differently. Whereas, you know, the Ottoman army is pretty numerous, and you've got a good mix of kind of medium and light cavalry, and pretty solid infantry from Janissaries. So I think that just occurred to me making this video, that would probably help with the gameplay, that, you know, there's each army has to be played a little bit differently, and that includes, you know, on the Polish team, you know, the Polish army is going to have a lot more heavy cavalry and lancers, but I was reading, according to the Paradowski book on the Khotyn War, you know, that at Cecora it was a problem that the lancers didn't really have enough space to make an impact, which I think is something I'm going to work in mechanically to the game, that, you know, like if you have basically, you know, heavy cavalry, medium or heavy cavalry with lances, you know, they have to be able to make a complete move into contact with another unit, because if they don't, I think I'm going to say that, you're going to roll as kind of like medium cavalry or light cavalry or something. You're going to lose like an attack die or some kind of penalty. I haven't worked that out yet, but whereas like these guys, for example, they could get into a close combat, and they don't necessarily need to like charge up to speed to have the full impact, because I would think, these guys would probably be firing their weapons, their ranged weapons, then charging in with their swords. So, they don't need to have that kind of crash in effect. And then, the dragoons and the hijouks would have a different role to play there. Now the hijouks, I think what I'm going to do with them is they would probably, I'm going to say that I'll have to think about how to implement this into Baroque, but maybe give them something where, they could have some kind of like ambush capability or evasion capability, because they did seem to do that in some of the other sources, like the kind of frontier warfare. And that becomes kind of a point of conflict, actually, because in the Long Turkish War, so that takes place about 15 years before Cecora, you have kind of friction between the Habsburg commanders who are trained in sort of more pitched battles, and like the Hungarian commanders who they all cut their teeth on kind of this border skirmishing and raiding. And, kind of the Habsburg commanders, I think, based on my reading, kind of had a point, because, okay, now we're fighting in kind of open warfare, all this raiding stuff, that's fine, but, we need to be able to actually like capture strategic locations and hold ground, and these guys weren't as good with that. They didn't have as much experience with that, but they were good, at raiding. So anyway, but in the Cecora game, I'm thinking about how to kind of implement that. Giving the hijouks maybe some kind of scenario rule. The other thing is I don't want to overburden the players with a lot of special rules, because I'm pretty aware that this is a kind of obscure period of history, era and region of history to a lot of people. So I'm going to have to be careful with not making things intelligible. So as much as I'd like to use all the proper foreign names for things, I'm also going to have to make sure that it's accommodating enough that people can get the point. But, at the same time, I think most historical war gamers are a little bit smarter than the average gamer, I think. So if I explain things, or at least have a good reference sheet, it shouldn't be too difficult. So I think for this army, I don't want to add too much more infantry. I think what I've got is probably enough between the regular line units and then these additional, like the hijouks on foot and on, I'm not in the hijouks on foot. Because like I said, I think it would be more interesting that, when I run this game, that you kind of have to play this army a little bit differently if you're the player assigned to this, or it's maybe I only have like 2v2 or something, however the players would want to divvy it up, that these units would have to be used a little more, you can't just throw them in. I think they'd have to be used more carefully to have an impact. But like I said, I have to check if these were actually present at the battle, and if they took part. I talked about this in a previous video. Sorry that this video is going to be a little longer because I keep thinking up, going into these other directions. But kind of one thing that happens with Ottoman sources is they don't want to kind of give too much credit to, especially, by the 16th and 17th century, if you have kind of the infidel fighting under you, which they had quite a few of at various times, you don't want to give them too much credit. Even someone like the Kurds, who were fellow Muslims, they're kind of, they're kind of seen as this tribal element that are auxiliaries. You don't want to give them too much credit in the sources. So it may be that the Transylvanians were just kind of not written into the story, so to speak, or abstracted away, where if you say, oh, well, we have the army of Rumelia, that may have included the Transylvanians, but I don't know yet. I have to look into that more. For gaming purposes, I may just include the Transylvanians as a kind of, historical what if or hypothetical, just so there's more figures on the table. I guess this gets into, kind of a meta question of doing these historical scenarios of, where to draw the line between, adding things for the sake of gameplay versus, trying to be as strictly simulationist as possible. So anyway, those are kind of bigger questions, I guess, but we could do one last look at the army. And like I said, these are all figures from the by Fire and Sword range from Wargamer Poland. Now, at the time of filming this video, they are between editions for Fire and Sword. I think they only just released the second edition starter boxes, and they don't have the miniatures out, the rest of the miniatures out yet, I don't think, but they should come out with them relatively soon. And if you're watching this much later, you could go check out the Fire and Sword figures, because especially if you want to do Hungarians or Transylvanians in the Renaissance, this is the only like complete range in 15mm that I know of. Alternative Armies has some stuff, but this is more complete for Transylvanians. And you can also use this if you want to have Hungarian troops in Habsburg service for kind of the military frontier, like hijux like these guys, things like that. So all right, this is a kind of a long one, so sorry about that, but I hope you liked it, and thanks for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you in the next video.